Hey, well, factoring into today's video update, we're going to have a look at the weather for the coming week for 10 days. In today's video, we'll also have a look at March. We're going to think a little bit about what could be happening as we go through into next month. And also it could be quite a changeable sort of month with alternating air masses. So we'll have a look at the CFS-V2 and Beijing Climate Centres for that. As well in this video. Before I get on with that, though, just say about the ads at Gasworth. So it's links to articles on all pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. Thought I'd just start off with the temperature anomaly for the coming week. I looked at this yesterday, but I thought I'd start with today's video because it does look very cold in terms of these anomalies, not just for the UK, but for many central and western parts of Europe as well. Temperatures there, temperatures anomalies, I should say, coming out generally around 2 to 4 Celsius below average for many parts of Western and Central Europe during the course of the coming week. I think we have to go back to September last year to find a week that had such extensive cold temperature anomalies and such a depth of cold across many northern and western parts of Europe. So a pretty cold week coming up, I have to say. We haven't seen much of this over this winter, so it will be a little bit of a shock to the system, especially for those central parts of Europe, where I think we're going to get quite a lot of snow as we get through into the weekend. Reason it's turning cold is that these northerly winds are coming down across the country today, so we'll have a hard frost tonight, and we'll have further frost over the coming few nights as well. This is the GFS chart for Friday, and we find low pressure is diving down across Ireland and in towards the north of France at that point, bringing this cold air down from the north with it. That low pressure becomes quite a major feature across France and northern Spain as we go through into Saturday. The jet stream going a very long way south with this as well. That's where the jet stream going almost down towards North Africa before doing something a bit like that. So there's a lot of cold air entrenched within this trough of low pressure. Will bring heavy rain and heavy snow to parts of France and Spain on Saturday. The Pyrenees will get a real dumping of snow from that. We're in this easterly flow. It's going to be quite dry, but it could bring some wintry showers onto the east coast. And then as we go through into Sunday, that low pressure just sits there across the north of France and the south of Spain. So it will, as I say, bring a lot of heavy rain. Could also bring snow in places, well, particularly over higher ground and mountainous regions. Don't be surprised if we're hearing about flooding from this system across some southern parts of France and northern Spain as we go through into this weekend. The start of next week sees that low pressure pushing north, and it's heading up towards Germany then, with this northeasterly wind on its northern side that could bring heavy snow, maybe blizzards to parts of Germany. We remain under this ridge of high pressure, so things just not quite right for us to get snow out of this. We will be cold, we will have hard overnight frost, daytime temperatures will be limited. There could be wintry showers being fed in with these easterly winds, particularly to eastern and southeastern coastal regions. But at this stage, there doesn't look to be the chance of a widespread snow event occurring from this scenario. As you go through to the start of next week, this takes into Tuesday, the high pressure starts to slip a little bit to the south and allows weather system to come back in from the Atlantic. So this returns the winds to the west, actually, on Tuesday. There's a band of rain moving in with this. It's coming to cold air, so exactly how this happens needs monitoring, because it could bring snow on the leading edge, but there is a very big warm sector with this, and it's just really a band of rain at the moment anyway, moving through across England, Wales, possibly something more wintry for Scotland. But once that gets out of the way on Tuesday, the winds return back to the north and the northwest. So colder air starts to push back again through the middle part of next week. And that sets us up for a much colder end to next week, with low pressure again diving southeast. Was it going on a northwest, southeast trajectory, the jet stream, something like that. So it allows cold air to move down from the north as this low pressure exits away to the east. So the second half of next week at this stage is looking significantly colder again. And maybe this one will bring a greater chance of some wintry conditions. It's a long way off, so we won't know until closer to the time. But that's quite cold air. There's an area of low pressure close to us, so possibly something more wintry in terms of snow in the second half of next week, but I'd say very long way off. This is the ECMWF, and that's very similar with this area of low pressure across France and Spain. Over the weekend, gradually pushes northwards through the course of Sunday, taking the risk of rain and snow from Spain and France and pushing up towards Germany, where I think it'll mainly be snow. For us, we're in this cold northerly, northeasterly wind, easterly winds down in the south, and as I say, wintry showers, possibly snow showers onto the east coast over the weekend, but not at the moment. Anyway, it doesn't look like we're going to get a widespread snow event scenario out of this. Start of next week sees that ridge of high pressure toppling down across the country. It turns mainly dry, be a lot of hard frost with that. And then we bring those westerlies back in through the middle part of next week, so it turns milder Tuesday into Wednesday with a band of rain coming in off the Atlantic. Might turn wintry up in the north. And then the second half of next week sees that colder push coming down from the north again as these areas of low pressure exit away from the east. So the trend definitely with the GFS and the ECMWF is to turn things colder in the second half of next week. So a three-way split next week. Quite an interesting week. Starts off cold and dry, turns milder, wet, and then turns colder, possibly with something wintry coming through in the second half of next week. This is day 10, Friday the 4th of March. I said is a very long way off. Finally, the GEM for these charts, and again, it's very similar situation for the weekend. So all of the axes to the south of us across France and Spain, heavy rain, snow in places. We're mostly dry in this northeasterly flow. Could be wintry showers on the east coast. It will be a cold weekend. And then go through the start of next week, cold and dry. Through the middle part of the week, it turns more unsettled with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, bringing a band of rain, and then colder into the second half of the week. So we've got very good agreement. For such a changeable pattern, we've got very good agreement for next week's weather, a long way off, but all three are agreeing on the broad situation for next week, which is a cold and dry start, milder, wet midweek, colder, possibly with some snow in the second half of next week. And this weekend looking mainly dry but cold, and risk of these easterly winds bringing wintry showers onto the east coast. Let's think a bit about March, then. That takes up to the very start of March. I'll have a look at CFS-V2. The 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. So the first week period is the week that we're in, the 23rd of February through to 29th. And we can see the trough of low pressure elongating here through central western parts of Europe with this ridge in the Atlantic and going up towards northern blocking across the pole. This is very extensive blocking up here over the top of the pole. So this entrenches the cold air into this trough with the jet stream pushing south, a very long way south. It allows, with blocking, the cold air to come out of the Arctic into that trough of low pressure and cold, unsettled conditions across many central parts of Europe through the course of the coming week. The next week takes us through the first week of March. It's the 1st through to 7th of March. And it's still quite a cold one, this. The trough is through central parts of Europe. Got the ridge through the Atlantic and extending up again to these above average heights to the north. So the jet stream is going rather like that. It places us on the cold side of the jet. And again, it allows cold air to push in from the north and the northeast through that first week of March. Then the third week, this is from the 8th through to the 14th, we see a change here. We find, although we've still got quite a bit of northern blocking with these red curves, we find pressure actually building over top of the coast. So this could be, well, fairly chilly, but quite dry conditions, really. This could be very pleasant with the trough being shoved over towards the southeast of Europe. We'll be turning significantly drier there. And as I say, it could be fairly pleasant, quite cold at night, but by day, wouldn't be too bad. And then the final week, this is from the 15th through to the 21st of March, shows that high pressure moving towards central parts of Europe. So this is turning milder. This is only warmer. This is perhaps our first real push of spring with the jet stream going like that. It'll still be fairly chilly at night, but I think we'll have some very pleasant days with temperatures really probably responding to that strong March sunshine. Remember, the sun is coming back into the northern hemisphere in March. Yeah, I think that could be significantly milder there as we go through into the middle part of the month, and very pleasant indeed. The temperature anomalies from the CFS-V2 for the coming week, colder than average. Oh yeah, got a colder than average week. Haven't had many of those this winter. And the first week of March looking a bit colder than average as well. So a couple of pretty chilly weeks coming up for the next couple of weeks. But then as the high pressure builds over across the country, we find the temperature anomaly picking up from the 8th through to the 14th. And that final week looks very warm, really, from the 15th through to 21st of March. That is a proper push of spring there, with the temperature anomalies going significantly above average. You could be seeing temperatures with bad up to around 18 Celsius, first real spring warmth of the season. The Beijing Climate Centre 500 millibar heights look like this. Again, these are broken down into 10-day periods. So the coming 10 days from 26th through 26th of February through to the 6th of March. It's generally quite western. It isn't as cold this as the CFS V2, but it is quite changeable. The second week shows the ridge building up, I should say the second 10 days. So this is in agreement with CFS V2, placing the ridge around the UK. That takes us from the 7th to the 16th of March. And then the final 10 days, again, another quite big change. This goes from the 17th through the 26th of March. And we find a trough setting up to the east of the country. Then the ridge pulls out towards Greenland. So that would be a lot colder there as we go through into the second half of March. We could bring much colder air down around this trough of low pressure over Scandinavia. That could open the door to winds from the north. So it looks like we're going to have quite a changeable March, actually. There's some very pleasant weather in there, particularly centred perhaps around the second and into the third weeks of the month. But also there is the chance of some quite cold conditions, probably through the first week of the month, and then again maybe later on into the third week. So a really changeable March will be quite an interesting month if it came off like that. In the nearer time frame though, the coming week to 10 days looking colder than average, and as saw from those anomaly charts, perhaps the coldest sort of week or so that we've had since going back to September. But a lot of dry weather. I don't think it's going to be too much snow to worry about in the near future anyway, but cold and dry, basically summing it up. That's it for now then, and thanks for watching.